Hello everyone, I'm Krisha, a 13-year-old from Delhi, and today I welcome you with a really big heart to Training with Teens. I'm going to be doing a podcast on introversion. As you know from the title, Introverts for the Win. Today I'm going to be discussing everything ranging from the problems introverts face to the solutions, of course. So that's what we're going to be doing in the next 40 minutes. I sincerely want to give you guys an insight into the life of an introvert and what problems they face and how they combat it on daily basis so that you as a society can stand up and help introverts restrict their stimuli and be more comfortable when they're around people. So I'm really excited, and we also have two really interesting panelists for the day, Anvita and Garv, and by coincidence, both of them are social introverts. So we'll just start in a while, like we'll give it 2-3 minutes and then we'll start. Today I'll be interviewing two introverted panelists, and yeah, both of them are social introverts, and going to be asking like some interesting questions to them. They'll answer them and we'll see what they answer as an introvert. So it's gonna be really fun, and we'll just start in a while. Before that, I want to clarify the aim of this podcast. So by this podcast, I generally want the society to view introversion not as a problem or a disease that needs to be fixed or cured, but rather as a unique gift that needs to be embraced, provided with the fact that 95% of the creative speakers or public speakers and thinkers are introverted. So it's important that we come up together on a cumulative basis as a society to embrace introversion and just celebrate it on daily basis. We don't have to create a separate day for introvert celebration day, but we just have to celebrate it on daily basis and make our society more inclusive for introverts. And more importantly, I just forgot to tell you a really important thing. I'm an introvert as well. So I'm more of a thinking introvert and less of a social introvert. Like you can call me a thinking introvert and a social introvert. Like it is in concentration. So basically, I'm an introvert as well. And I also want to debunk the myth that introverts can't be confident. Like I'm an introvert and I think that I'm confident. No, I believe that I'm confident. That's good. So that's what I want by this podcast. I want to also debunk the myth that introverts can't be confident. Who says that? Introverts can of course be confident. Take Susan Cain, Mahatma Gandhi, and many others for the examples. So we'll just start. And before that, I'd like to know your host. Obviously, I'm your host. Yeah, I just told you. I'm Krisha. I'm 13. I'm from Delhi, etc., etc. So basically, I just love English language. It's great writers and it's beautiful creators, and I'm in love with the English language itself. I love Indian writers as well, like Sudha Murthy, and I have read a lot of things written by her. You should, of course, go ahead and try one of her non-fiction novels. I'm sure you'll like it. So that's what I do. I just read and write. Like I read a lot and I write a lot as well. I like poetry as well. I am basically, fan of Williams Wordsworth's poetry, and I read a lot of it. 19th century poetry is good. Modern poetry is also good. So I do write a lot of poems, short stories, and essays, stuff like that. So there is a lot about me, and I find myself to be a really interesting person as well. But that's enough for the day. Yeah, chill. That's enough for the day. I'll not tell you anything else about myself. Like I'm not giving you my biography. I'm sure that I'll one day write my biography. Like I guess I'll do that, but not now. Yeah. So just chill. We'll start now. I guess both the panelists, Anvita and Gaurav, are joined in. Yes, they are. Okay. Let's start. So we will interview them today, and they'll answer them honestly as an introvert, and we also have some questions for the audience as well. And we also have an open discussion session. And nearing the end, we'll just interact with the audience. And I really want the audience to also type their views in. Whatever you think, like your feedback, your reviews, your views, etc., etc. If some questions you want to ask us about introversion, go ahead and type them in. And I'm really keen about, what looking at what you guys think. So do tell me like what you guys think, and we'll surely review that during the podcast. Yeah, so now let's start. We'll start with Anvita. Hi Anvita, what's up with you?
Nothing new.
Nothing new. Okay, that's great. Well, if there's nothing new, okay, we'll move on to Garv. Hi Garv, what's up with you?
Yeah, Krisha, I'm as fine as the weather. What about you?
Well, I am great as always, but the weather ain't really nice today. So I guess you are not nice as usual. Whatever. Anvita is basically just a 13-year-old from Delhi. She's an introvert. She loves music and appreciates all forms of art. She is, a quiet, reserved, and somewhat shy kind of a person, and she is also an introvert. So, Anvita, do you want to tell something else about you, which you guess I missed? Like, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Anvita, and you missed that I like to read as well.
Well, yeah.
My favorite genres are paranormal fiction and mystery.
Well, I know your favorite genres are. I forgot that. Yeah, fine, fine. Okay, so we'll move on to Garv. So Garv is like a 13-year-old from Delhi again. He is a social introvert. He loves cooking and playing chess. Yeah, by cooking I mean he cooks everything, like edible and inedible food as well. So he loves playing chess as well, sometimes with himself. He's an introvert, so can't help. So Garv, is there something you want to tell to the audience which I didn't? So go ahead.
Yeah, of course. The fact that you missed is that I love reading books,
Oh yeah.
and especially the ones which are related to economics. And currently, can you guess what book I'm reading?
No, I have no idea about what you are reading.
Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is written by Robert T. Kiyosaki.
Oh yeah, that's a really nice book. You guys also should, go ahead and view that once. It's a great book.
Y- Yeah, it actually briefs you about the differences between the assets and the liabilities that a person could possess in the future. And since I'm also pursuing to take commerce in my higher classes, so it would surely help me a lot.
Yeah, of course it will help you. It's a great book. Like it's better than a self-help book. Of course you can invest some time in like Rich Dad Poor Dad. It will teach you a lot about how the world works. It's great. So
And don't you miss the fact that it has also been a bestseller in New York?
yeah, it's a New York Times bestseller. It has been a New York Times bestseller like multiple times.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's all about our two panelists, Gaurav and Anvita. And now, for the most awaited thing, we'll start interviewing them. So, first, we'll start with Anvita. Anvita, my first question's for you, and it is that have you ever faced insecurity for being an introvert?
Yes, I have. Considering we live in an extrovert dominated society, I don't really feel like I fit in where I go and do feel very insecure about it.
That's totally relatable. Even when I'm around people, I just feel that my energy is draining. And I really do feel insecure about being in my body. Like I used to feel really insecure. But now I don't think so. I am really insecure about being in my own body. Like it's your life and you choose how you want to be. So of course introverts do face insecurity and that's what Anvita is also talking about. So it's really relatable. Okay, so we'll move on to the next question, which is for Gaur. So, Gaurav, my next question is for you, which says that when we stray back to Indian history, we find that one of the most learned men also went to the wild, meditated, and found enlightenment alone, then came back and shared his learnings with others. Being said that, it is evident that in older times, solitude and tranquility was indeed a way of living. But it's suddenly that in 21st century, we are forgetting the power of the quiet. What are your views on the same?
Yes, indeed, Krisha. And also, according to the statistics, 50% of the Indian population, that is about 675 million people, in correspondence to the society should be changed so that they come to be accepted by our stereotypical civilization for which they shall be successful, happy, and cherish. It is so disgraceful for introverts like me that our society is constantly crippling and knowingly suppressing the past times which were woven by the golden threads, including the spiritual souls. And now in the 21st century, we are not ready to accept these introverts and just seem like they are a particular kind of an idol sitting in a corner and not conversing to anyone. And what a way to disrespect our history. And I surely say with a sigh.
Yeah, I agree with you. More than disrespecting, it's a way of disapproving our history. Like in our older times, the great souls used to go and meditate typically alone. And now we have such a buzz that you always need to talk to somebody. Otherwise, you are an introvert. Introverts can't succeed. Blah blah blah. It's really wrong to do so. You are disapproving our own Indian history, which is not acceptable. And Satvika says that how social introverts are different from others, as we are talking about this term really often. So, guys, what do you think? Like, I personally think that social introverts are not different from introverts, but they are just people who need a little bit of social interaction, but in concentration. Matlab, they don't need to be around people 24/7, but for a few minutes or a few hours a day is good. They do need social interaction, but they are not extroverts. Social introverts are again a type of introverts who like social interaction and concentrated forms. I hope that answers your question, Satvika. Then Nidhi says, The Quiet, the Power of Introverts in a World That Just Can't Stop Talking is a great book. Yes, it is indeed. It's written by Susan Cain. I heard a lot about that book, and Susan Cain's official TED Talk is also great in which she introduces this book. You should, check it out. Oh, that wasn't me, it was Pranay. I guess the names are getting changed again. There's some problem with the UI. Anyways, we'll move on to the next question for Anvita. Anvita, my next question is for you. Have you ever been to a parent teacher meeting wherein your teacher has focused more on the fact that you don't mix up with other students much rather than your academics?
Yes, I have been to such parent teacher meetings. My teachers were more concerned about the fact that I didn't really talk to other children and didn't have many friends than my academics. This is proof that the society that we live in is pretty narrow minded and accepts only extroverts, and will probably continue to do so in the future.
I agree with you. Even I have been to such parent teacher meetings where the teacher says that your ward is good at academics, but she doesn't really socialize. She doesn't have many friends, but she is supposed to have, as many children of her age do. So I also have been like it has happened to me personally, and that's what led to me to ask this question as well. So it feels very relatable that it's happened with you as well. And most of the introverts hear such comments that you are quiet. What do you mean by quiet? It's not a disease that you are typically saying it's quiet. Like I agree that our society is very narrow-minded as well, but spreading awareness can always help, no? So yeah, I agree with you, Anvita. And we'll now move on to our next question for Gaur. So it says that a few days back on 2nd October, like some months back actually, we celebrated Mahatma Gandhi's birth anniversary. He's often known as one of the finest leaders, but we often tend to forget that even he recognized himself as an introvert. Yet now in 21st century, we think of an introvert, we think of a lonely person sitting in the corner. Don't you think that people are not educated enough to know the capabilities of introverts? Do you think that illiteracy and discrimination towards introverts are interlinked?
Yes, I truly believe. And even in my point of view, education and literacy matters in such controversial topics. And since this discussion is about one of the most important topics to eliminate the introversion dwelt in the society and try to create an unauthentic society, which is filled with people who like to just chit chat and do not really believe in conserving their ideas up to their minds. So I strongly believe that education, the mindset, as well as the social and physical environment in which the person lives is a factor for judgment in each and every scenario. For example, even if we try to consider the idea, or we can even say the phenomenon of selective empathy, then we come to know that the things or the news which is more trending, the people totally gets attracted towards them, but the things that are not on the major headlines are totally and typically ignored by the people. So we can compare these ideas with the introverts and extroverts. Introverts compare actually conserve their ideas up to their mind so people don't talk to them. And as Krisha told that Mahatma Gandhi, Susan Cain, they are one of the most famous people who are also an introvert. Added to this, Bill Gates, J.K. Rowling, Albert Einstein, Warren Buffett, Emma Watson. All these people are introverts, and we need examples in this 21st century to kill those prevailing prejudices. Don't you agree?
I totally agree with you. Yeah, of course, there are many successful people out there who are introverted. Still, we treat introversion as a minority. I don't think this really makes sense, does it? There are so many successful people. Still, introversion is such a bad thing that we are trying to suppress introverts. It's just some propaganda going, and I really feel that way. Sometimes, like when somebody says they're an introvert, people are like, "Oh, that means you need to socialize a little more. That means you're shy." And that leads to me to discuss a really important topic as well. Like when I was doing the research for this podcast, I came across the definitions provided by Oxford Dictionary for introversion and for extroversion as well. In introversion, it was written that introverts are shy and quiet people, and extroverts are outgoing and confident people. I was startled. How can you call extroverts confident and introverts shy? Not all introverts are shy. I am not shy. I am an introvert. So it's not okay to call introverts shy and extroverts confident. Introverts can be confident as well, and extroverts can be shy as well. Most of all, clarifying and filtering information is important, which we are not doing. This should be making the headlines, but it is not. Our society and our education system is not doing anything to educate people about introverts, and it should be done. Like we have the new education policy, but nobody knows when it will get implemented. So we really need to make sure that our NEP gets implemented and it focuses on introversion as well. Like in India, our policies look good on paper, but when it comes to execution, we leave the momentum. Like we just break the momentum. So it should not happen, and introversion should be focused upon both by the society, education system, and the government. And yeah, that's what you just said, Gaurav, and I love the way you put it together. Thank you for answering either ways. So, so my next question is for Anvita. And with my next questions for you, so it says that do you think that we have certain bias towards introvert, and we often tend to engage in amplification for them? Do you think we unintentionally defenestrate their ideas?
Yes, I agree. We do engage in floxinoxynihilabilification, for introverts are not as expressive as extroverts. But it is proven by researchers that introverted students are more erudite in comparison to extroverts. Yet stereotypes still restrict us from believing in their capabilities.
I agree with you. Like there are a lot of stereotypes and prejudices which we talked about like previously, which restrict us from believing in the capabilities of introverts. Let's just forget all bias and stereotypes for a moment and focus upon the people who have done great stuff in their life besides being an introvert, and we'll actually be able to see the big picture, which is important. And yeah, Anvita, I agree with you. It's totally agreeable for me. Like yeah. And Sajak says that do you think your family is happy with your introverted nature? They are kind of happy and they're kind of not. Like I really don't know. Like it's a personal question, so I don't know how to answer it. But yeah, they're happy with my introverted nature. There aren't many grudges against it. Like it's just gentle. They do ask me to socialize, but it's not that you should not be an introvert. It's a bad thing. It's nothing like that. Or they're forcing me to be an extrovert. It's nothing like that. Moreover, it's a personal question, so I would just like to answer this up to this mark, and it's different for every introvert. It depends how many stereotypes and prejudices your family possesses. If your family is really towards the extroverted side and everybody in the family is extroverted and then you are introverted, so it may be a thing for issue. But yeah, I'm okay with, and my family is also okay with my introversion. Not many major grudges, I guess. With that, we move on to our next question for girl, which says that do you think that introverts and leadership are two adverse words and can't be said in the same line? This is an important question, I guess, because many people believe in that. So it is a stereotype or it's actually there. Go ahead, go.
Are you seriously kidding? Being an introvert, why to think negatively and suppress our skills and qualities to call ourselves as a leader? Why not? Don't you think that leadership qualities emerge typically from our soul, which is as pure and clear as a jewel? It is not the people who decide who is a leader and who is not. The fact should be accepted and improved by us so that we can determine how long we can take up a specific topic. Being an introvert, leadership skills is a part of their characteristics. So I strongly believe that our sense of understanding of the situation is only what makes a person a leader, and this quality is not embedded within the hands of extroverted people. It can surely spread towards the introverted people as well.
Yeah, you are absolutely correct. Like, of course, it sounds that I'm kidding and what to think so negative, but many people do believe in that. Like, half of our population does. They think that introversion and leadership can't be like together. How can an introvert lead such a big group of people who especially contains extroverts as well? It's not like that. Mahatma Gandhi was one of the finest leaders, as we just talked about him in the past, and he was, an introvert as well. So what does that mean? Is it a myth or a stereotype? I guess it's now clear. So we'll move on to the next question for Anvita, which is that do you think we need to shape kids to be extroverts, provided one-third of the total population is introverted?
No, we don't need to shape kids to be extroverts. Well, 675 million people in the world are introverted. So I don't think we need to shape kids to be extroverts. And also, authenticity is what really matters at the end of the day. So, therefore, I strongly believe that we should be in our own shoes. I would also like to add a quote: be yourself, everyone else is taken.
Yeah, I love the quote you added in the end. Like, it's a quote by Shakespeare, and I have actually read this quote, and it's my go-to thing. Yeah, be yourself. Everybody else is taken. Just be cool. Be in your own shoes. And authenticity is something we are always talking about. Be yourself. Life is too short to be someone else. We hear, people calling out this, and we also hear the same people calling that introverts should change, be converted into extroverts. Introverts should socialize. Introvert can't be leaders. The same people are talking both of the things, and it makes no sense. So yeah, I agree with you, Anvita. And with this, I guess somebody's written in the chat. I guess the user interface is little, so I don't know if the name is Tia or what. And she's written, "Can I share something?" Yes, of course you can. Like, do type your views in the chat. We are of course ready to review them. Okay, then he says that do introverts face challenges in making friends? Now, that's something no study has proven yet so far. But personally, I'm an introvert, so I am not really able to make friends, or perhaps I just take it as I have not got the hang of like minded people. From day one, I was never able to make friends, so I don't know if other introverts are able to face problems in making friends personally. And with that, do you face problems in making friends?
Yeah, I totally relate.
Yeah, I never had friends since nursery, so don't really know if others also or not. Girl, do you face problems in making friends as an introvert?
Yeah, I surely do face problems while making friends since they do not want to share their ideas with me, and I also don't feel comfortable while sitting in a group of friends, and I actually stay close to me. So that's the perfect idea.
Yeah, you should. You should just be with yourself. Sometimes spending alone time for extroverts is also good. And you are an introvert, so it's your typical nature. And that doesn't need to be changed at all. Okay, so we'll move on to the next question for Gaur, which says that the present study proposes that introversion should be placed on the autism spectrum, as indicated by constituencies and overlap of introversion and autism deficiencies. The personality dimension of introverts appears to exemplify a collection of traits and tendencies consistent with non-clinical autism. Do you think that this is a way of demotivating introverts? I would actually like Anvita to answer this question because I think she has more knowledge with this study. Anvita, I'd like you to answer this question.
Thank you for telling me to answer that question. Krisha, absolutely. I was pretty alarmed when I got to know of that theory. How can you put introverts on the autism spectrum when we are already struggling with getting autistic people their rights? And like it's mentioned in the question, that introverts suffer from non clinical autism because they are wired differently from extroverts. So, simply, it is to say that no matter what happens, we still live in an extrovert's world.
I agree with you. Even I was startled. Like, I was like, seriously, am I reading this in 21st century? I was even startled, like I was like, is this real or what? I had to read it once or twice to actually get the thought that it is real. And I read the study some time back. And how can you put introverts in the category of autism just because they are wired differently from extroverts? Then extroverts also need to be put in the autism category. I'm not saying autism is something that needs to be like ignored or something. But no offense to anybody, still you can't put introverts in the autism category just because they're wired differently from extroverts, provided introverts are not a minority. Let's make it clear, introverts are not a minority. 50% of the Indian population is introverted. What do you want? Introverts are not at all a minority. How can you put introverts in autism section? Like, you just can't. How can you say that introverts have non-clinical autism just because they are different from extroverts? It's not correct at all. And I was more startled to see that no activism was happening on this. Nothing. What is making our news feed these days? What actress is wearing what color clothes? This is what is there on all of our news feed, like most of ours. And this is not at all there. It should be making the headlines, and it has to be making the headlines if you want our society to be more inclusive. So with that, we'll move to the next question for Gaurav. Garv, my next question is for you, and it says that what is the difference between shyness and introversion?
In my point of view, shyness and introversion are two different aspects which are mistakenly considered by the whole society as the same thing and lying beneath the same category. Like, how can you consider shyness and introversion as the same factor? A person who is introvert must or must not be shy. Actually, you can take the example of Mahatma Gandhi as it was described by Krisha, that he was also an introvert and he was able to lead such a large society, or we can even say an organization, and now we know him as the father of the nation. He used to visit people's house and spread the ideologies of peace and love. Was he shy? No, not at all. It is because that shyness actually involves fear of judgment or a negative evaluation, and since discussions have to be taken in life, shyness or diffidence typically resists the person to take a part in the decision or the discussion. But if we talk about introversion, then it refers to a tendency towards becoming overstimulated and the need to be alone to gain energy from that peaceful environment. And added to this, extroversion is just the opposite of introversion. But if we talk about shyness, then its opposite is outgoing.
Yeah, I agree with you. And as we just talked about that, no introversion is described as shy and underconfident, and extrovert as outgoing and confident. Like you can't say that. It's amazing how even a dictionary made by an organization that the world follows is based when it comes to this. Like, yeah, I agree with you. Oxford Dictionary gave the definition which has stereotypes. What does that mean? Like, we are living in a world of stereotypes, and the whole world is following a dictionary which is created by biased people. It's so hard to believe this, but truth is always bitter, and we have to concede the fact. Okay? Because until we'll actually believe that what's happening around us, we'll never be able to become more real and work towards it. Okay, so with this, I want to ask Gaurav another question as a follow up. Gaurav, in schools from day one, we are told to talk to other students, interact, and I vividly remember that till fifth grade, we got grades for class interaction, and not to add bitter icing on the salty cake. Subjects like math and creative learning were also taught in groups and teams, but no solitary learning at all was promoted. Provided according to research, introverts get better grades and are more knowledgeable. So can solitary learning be promoted by creating awareness about it?
Gav, would it bother you if I answer this question?
Yeah, no problem. You can always answer.
Thanks. Uh, yeah, solitary learning can be promoted by creating awareness about it, like Krisha said. We all have attended webinars and seminars hosted by our schools on varied topics, haven't we? But has anyone attended a webinar or seminar on introversion? Have you?
No, I haven't. I haven't. Like, we are in the same school, by the way, but we haven't attended any session on introversion yet so far. Like, is there anybody in the chat who has attended a session hosted by the school on introversion? Anybody? I can't see any yeses, but if there's anybody, please tell us in the chat. Nope. And Satvik has written, okay. Never heard of any. I guess everybody agrees that our schools don't host anything when it comes to introversion. But we have bad touch, good touch. What about introversion? Okay, we know what's bad touch, good touch. It's important to tell you that what's a bad touch, good touch, women empowerment, okay. Career goals, okay, dream big, okay. But what about introversion? We have 50% population are introverted. Why aren't we talking about it? I really don't understand.
Exactly. If our schools hosted sessions to teach students about the benefits of solitary learning and introversion, the society that we live in today could have been more accepting towards introverts.
Of course, it would have been just because we have not at all we haven't ever tried to share awareness about introversion, have we? Like just way back, have you ever tried to share awareness about introversion? We all send lame jokes on WhatsApp. Like I like calling it a WhatsApp university of lame jokes. But have you ever tried to send awareness about introversion? It's important. It should be making the headlines, but it is not. I don't know because our media only writes about the things we want to read and we don't want to read something like that. and we really need to change our views as a society to be more inclusive. With that, we move on to the next question for Gaurav. Gaurav, as we know that introversion is environmental, so can introverts be comforted by restricting stimuli?
This is a very nice question asked, and I, as an introvert, is very keen to attend to this. If I talk about the various studies and theories, then introverts are psychologically more sensitive than extroverts. They sweat more than extroverts, and even a drop of lemon juice on the tongue, they will salivate in greater quantities. It may be apparently funny, but it's a fact. When they are overstimulated, an introvert's mind can unknowingly shut down. It becomes hard to think, hard to talk, especially when they are around a group of friends. And though introversion is common characteristic, but people are developing a hatred towards it. And even in the US, a profoundly extroverted nation, parents seek help if their child is an introvert and these children find themselves as suffering from social anxiety disorder. Like, what a way and what rubbish is this? You are disapproving and killing the authenticity of that specific human being for which he or she has been created for. And though there could be many perspectives, but my thoughts drive me to a conclusion that introverted minds can be given rest to the outside environment by spending some time with the nature, smelling the flowers, staring a cloud from a window. So finally the point is that introverts can be comforted by restricted stimuli.
I totally agree with you. Even I sometimes feel like I need to cut off from the world and just spend 15-20 minutes with myself to just come back, and then I can do whatever I was doing and I can just come back to whatever I was doing. And that's what we need to understand as a society, that let's give introverts a break. Like we have been talking to them for 3 hours, then let's just stop. Let them just recharge their mind and they'll come up with some great ideas indeed. And somebody's written in the chat, you are proving that there is a difference between shyness and introversion. Your confidence in speech proves that you are not shy at all. Thank you so much. And Nidhi has written some very meaningful points discussed here, and you come up with great research through this podcast you are making a start. Thank you so much for supporting us in the chat. It really means a lot. Now we'll move on to the next question, and it's a continuation to this question. It's kind of a continuation, so I'll just ask her the next question. How can we make our schools more comfortable for introverts? As you just said that stimuli needs to be restricted, then how can a school restrict stimuli? How can they make a go in this thing?
Yeah, of course. And given education's close connection with the corporate world, schools are no exception. Often it's the students who raise their hands and are eagerly waiting to tell the answer. Like, take my class for an example. There are few students who keep their hands raised at almost for each and every question asked. But I, being an introvert, feel actually discomforted to kind of boast or announce the class like, say, I know the answer, yeah. But the point is that what can teachers do to foster a more personality inclusive environment? Firstly, they can make choices central. That is, asking the students as to how they would like to demonstrate that learning allows them to gravitate towards what inspires them so that they can display their best work. And such as inspiring the students to design their own paths, find an appropriate approach to a specific problem, and also they could organize certain discussions on weekly basis for topics such as how a person when he or she is lonely or when he or she is in a friendly atmosphere so that they could actually know the comfort for students. And apart from this, creative writing also plays a crucial role in describing how a person thinks to himself. So it should be actually improved and encouraged over a period of time in schools.
Yeah, I agree with you. Even I believe so that we just need to spread awareness about it, and teachers need to take some steps as you just discussed, and it will be all sorted. Introverts are happy, and extroverts will be happy as well. So I agree with that, and I want to ask a follow up to this question, and it's for you, Garv. So it says that when psychologists look at the lives of the most creative people, they find that these people had a value for solitude besides a serious streak of introversion. So shouldn't creative learning be taught in schools as a subject to embrace introversion?
Yes, and as just said by me, I do think that creative writing should be taught in schools to embrace introversion because, as said by you, Krisha, that the lives of creative people have a certain kind of solitude apart from that loneliness. So introversions can respond with clarity of thoughts rather being overburdened and to speak and respond to a specific stimuli. I myself feel that I could express in a better way and my thoughts by writing, which is proved from the fact that I maintain a diary. Especially on weekends, you'll find myself writing about me in the balcony, writing about the various topics that twirl around my mind. So I personally believe that students should be given to write about the topics, which is not only to embrace the introversion but also open up their minds, so it would surely provide them aid in the future.
Yeah, that's great. Even I believe that learning should be a subject in school because I'm a great fan of writing, as I just told you when I was introducing myself. So it would be great for introverts as well as extroverts because 70% of the population, like the 70% of the jobs, will be taken away by AI, and many jobs like an engineer and doctor would be taken away by AI in the coming 20 years. So if we teach creative learning, like creative writing, it's going to be one of the things that AI can never replace. It's proven by Stanford University that it can't be ever replaced. So if we teach creative writing to extroverted as well as introverted students, introverts would feel more comfortable and extroverts would also have a broader dimension for their career. So it would be a win-win for both sides, and it should be considered in the NEP India is bringing up, like in the next few years. It should be considered that way as well. So this is the way we come to an end to our discussion, rather an interview on the topic introversion. And now it's time for the open discussion, which I'm really excited about, and you should be too. So basically, I'm going to ask a question, and I want everybody in the audience to type yes or no. You agree or you disagree. Like I'm going to tell something, and like I'm going to just pass out a statement, and you will tell me if you disagree or agree, and we'll see how many people agree to what I am saying, and we'll discuss it with the panelists as well. So yeah, just get started. So my question for the audience as well as the panelists for the open discussion is that when we have activists like women rights activists, autism right activists, isn't it an interest of all to have something called an introverts right activist? Don't you think that if introverts right activists were there, introverts could have got the right attention? So audience, type yes or no, you agree or you disagree. Do you want an introverts right activist out there or you don't want? Everybody just type it out, and you may also substantiate your views. Why, if you believe so, and why not? Just substantiate your views as well. I would love to read them. So, Anvita, what do you think? Do you want an introverts right activist?
Not really. I don't think that we need activists for introversion because I believe that activists just ignite more riots and protests, not really anything else.
Okay, well, I disagree. I just think that if there were activists like introverts right activists, perhaps they may not spread riots, and because we're talking about introverts right activists, I want people to come up and write blogs and columns and stuff in magazines and spread awareness about introversion and not get on the streets like introverts life matters. I'm not asking for that. Please, I'm just asking for people to spread awareness about it rather than coming on the streets and hollering introverts like that. Lives matter, like we do with every other kind of activism. That's not what I'm talking about. I think it should be there, and yeah, it would help in the long run, I believe. But of course, you have the right to disagree. Of course, you have. So I respect your views. Good. What do you think?
Yeah, I also truly believe that introvert right activist is necessary in the 21st century because even if we look at the electoral campaigns that are held by the politicians, what do they do in them? They actually brief you about the schemes as well as the policies that they are going to implement in when they would control the air of our Indian government. So similarly, if we talk about an introvert right activist, then he or she would convey the rights of the introverts to the general public, for which they could be more educated, literate, and help the and as well as encourage the introverts to gather and accommodate a space in the society so that they are not discriminated by the people who are extroverts.
Actually, I agree with you. I somewhat agree with you that if introverts like activists were there, they would help in passing out the rights and laws, and perhaps a society will be a lot more educated about their personal rights and what they have the right to do and what is the right thing to do. they'll be able to differentiate in between that. So I personally would love to be an introvert side activist in the future. Why not start a profession, something new, something new. Nobody heard about an introvert side activist. I would love to keep it as my part-time job in the future, of course. So that's all, and that's the way we come to the end of this podcast. And I hope that after this podcast, some of you are able to, like, most of you are able to start a conversation on the topic of introversion, because we have to start somewhere. Introverts have been suffering since ages, and it's finally their turn. So I just hope that you guys start a conversation, and I just hope that this podcast was a starting point in that, and you guys are more aware about introversion. You guys take up the idea and build upon it. You are just free to have your own perspectives, but of course you should appreciate and rather respect other perspectives too. So that's what it was all about. And thanks for joining, everybody. Thanks to Bukasmia especially for giving me this opportunity to speak about the topics that I personally believe in, and I believe that should be making the headlines. So thanks to Bukasmia, Archana ma'am, and Nidhi ma'am for supporting me to bring about this podcast. Thank you so much, guys, audience, for joining in. Thanks, Anvita and Garv, for supporting me throughout the podcast. And I was startled to hear your views. They were awesome, and I did believe that introversion can be brought about as something better than what it is today. Thanks everybody for joining in. Thanks for your support, guys, in the chat. Okay, that's all. Adios, my guys.
Ciao.
Ciao, Anvita.
It was a pleasure joining Krisha. Really enjoyed.